Welcome to If Numbers Could Talk. My name is Keelan. If Numbers Could Talk is a part of the Thinkering Group. You can find us over at thinkering.space. You can also find at Thinkering Space the Thinkering Talks podcast, the Exofathom podcast, along with the Plank Talks with Joe. When you get a chance, please check out our merchandise. We have merchandise on our website, thinkering.space, as well as merchandise at teespring.com/thinkering shop. Please visit, grab a t-shirt, grab a mug. We'll appreciate it. And when you do, feel free to let us know that you've decided to become a member of any of our fan clubs. Today at If Numbers Could Talk, it's going to be a little different, but in a good way. And I know if sometimes it may seem like I say, oh, it's going to be different every episode, but it really is a little different every episode. But we stick to the basis. If numbers could talk. In this episode, we'll be going through the numbers that created the careers that are belonging to Mark and Pau Gasol. The two brothers, the only two siblings to win NBA rings, Mark and Pau Gasol. Of the 63 NBA siblings in total from my lookup, these are the only two brothers to each have a ring. They did not win them together. And in fact, they won them in different decades. Well, nearly, but we'll get there. If you know anything about Mark and Pau Gasol was originally drafted to the Los Angeles Lakers as a second round pick, the rights to Pau Gasol were drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers. I want to say they had another year or two before he actually was eligible to play, to come over here from overseas. And he was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies for his brother, Pau Gasol. Now, at the time, Pau was probably one of the top players in the league, while Mark was relatively unknown, aside from the fact that his brother played in the NBA. So with that being said, let us begin our episode of If Numbers Could Talk. Again, this episode is solely and wholeheartedly banking on just the thought, just the concept that there were siblings that achieved something that no one else could. Now, let's also be clear, for myself, I am aware there were other NBA brothers who got fairly close. In fact, the exact same year Mark Gasol won, there would have been another brother duo recently of the NBA. One was retired by this point, and the other was playing for the Toronto Raptors and was in fact involved in the trade that brought Mark Gasol to the Toronto Raptors when they won their championship. So one way or another, we would be having an episode today about the first two brothers the first two siblings in the NBA to win rings. It just so happened that it is Mark and Pau Gasol rather than Darrell and DeLon Wright. That would have been a very nice episode for Southern California. So let's get some things ironed out off the bat. Pau Gasol was listed at 7 foot, 250 pounds. Mark Gasol is listed at 6'11", 255 pounds. Pau Gasol played a total of 18 years in his career, and Mark Gasol has played a total of 13 years in his career, depending on how you look at that, simply because Mark's not done playing. You'll hit 13, 15, who knows? We're not exactly sure when Mark's going to be done playing. To date, Mark Gasol is currently 35 years of age. His brother Pau is 40 years of age and only retired after the 2019 season. So here we move forward. Pau Gasol made his NBA debut on November 1st of 2001, where Mark Gasol made his NBA debut on October 29th, 2008. Now, again, I say, Marc Gasol was drafted in 2007, but he did not play until 2008 season, simply again because the rights to Marc Gasol were drafted originally, not the player himself. He was still obligated to play and or allowed to stay overseas for an extra year before he came. There we go. Took a minute to get that. So within that time, within the 13 years of Marc Gasol's career, Marc Gasol has only played for two teams, the Memphis Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors. Although he was drafted by the Los Angeles Lakers, he was immediately sent off, his rights at least, to Memphis. Pau Gasol, he was drafted originally by the Atlanta Hawks, and he never played a game for the Hawks. He was immediately sent over to the Memphis Grizzlies, and he played for the Memphis Grizzlies, the Los Angeles Lakers, where he won 2 rings, the San Antonio Spurs, the Chicago Bulls, and the Milwaukee Bucks. Pau Gasol in his career won a total of 2 NBA rings, both with the Los Angeles Lakers and Kobe Bryant. And Marc Gasol has won to date 1 NBA ring. He is still an active player in the NBA and currently is still playing with the Toronto Raptors, which is the team he won the ring with only a year ago with Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry, and those guys. Now, for a career, these 2 guys, now I want to make this very clear, and I'm probably going to repeat this a few times as we move forward. This isn't a comparison really as of to who's better. I know some people don't agree with this. I am neither, I'm not a big brother or a little brother to a brother. I don't have any biological brothers. So I get to say that, of course, the big brother is going to, do a little more because he taught the little brother everything. That does not make them, that does not mean that Marc needed Pau to become Marc. I simply believe that because Pau came along first, their games aren't exactly the same, but everyone knew once Marc got here, his IQ was high. That was already a thing that was known. You automatically assumed he would be a decent enough passer because his brother was a 7-foot is a 7-foot passer. Marc just kind of shied away from shooting as much as Pau did. Pau had no reservation in shooting a jump shot on you. There was no problem with it. But Marc really, it seems like it had to become a thing where, okay, I'm not as fast as I was. There's a couple of things I can't do that I maybe could do a couple of years ago. What do I need to add? Okay, let me add this jump shot here. And listen, he probably should have shot more shots through his career, if I'm being honest, looking at his efficiency. But overall, the Gasol brothers are gasoline. The gasoline brothers. The Gasol brothers, they 100%, 1,000%, 10,000% are the kind of guys where you look at the numbers, you look at the film, and they love this game and they played it like brothers. They in my opinion, when you watch Marc and Pau play, whether they were playing against each other, which didn't happen that often, but whether they were playing against each other or they were playing in general, there was like a chip on their shoulder, almost like I know why I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how did you get here kind of a thing. A nonchalant attitude. And it made their game look that much more easier. It made their game look that much more smoother. Marc being much more physical than Pau having much more finesse, that air of confidence that they exuded on the floor showed you that wherever they learned to play as young bucks, wherever they groomed their talents, where they honed and came into being the players that they were, you knew for a fact that everyone from their town, everyone who knew them before they became the guys that we know as Marc and Pau Gasol, I don't doubt that there was no secret that the Gasol brothers were basketball phenoms. So let's get to percentages. Pau Gasol for his career shot 51% from the field, 37% from the three-point range, and 75% from the free throw line. That's a 7-footer that's listed at 250 pounds. Marc Gasol for his career has a total of 48% from the field, 35% from the three-point range, and 78% from the free throw line. That is a 6'11", pretty much a 7-footer. Now, what is weird to me, now I'm aware, there's been some changes as far as measurements go in the NBA, and they've even gone back and changed some people's measurements. So if I remember correctly, there was a point where Powell was listed at 7'1" and Mark was listed at 7 feet. Now they both dropped an inch. Or it could just be age. Who knows? I know that some people say you get older and you shrink. Who knows? But I do remember there were a point where they were both 7-footers on paper. Real life, I don't know. Never met them. Never held a measurement stick to them. But on paper, I remember they were both listed at 7 foot. So it's very interesting today in 2020 to see them listed differently. However, equally still impressive. Still two brothers, enormous guys who played the game in a different way, even for guys their size. Career numbers. Excuse me. Pau Gasol averaged 17 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 0.5 steals, 1.6 blocks for his career. Eek. Marc Gasol averaged 14.6 points, 7.6 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 0.9 steals, and 1.4 blocks. Both of them were they were just sending things. They have a very great knack and long arms. They know how to catch that ball before it's considered a goaltending, and dominant in the paint. Again, Mark is a little more athletic, even I would say, than Powell, but neither really ultra athletic guys. Again, Powell's level of finesse was exactly that. You get a Pau Gasol dunk once in a while, but usually he was gonna hit you with some throw it this way on you on a layup. And I don't mean like it didn't look like acrobatic. It was just you don't know how he got the ball into that hole sometimes. And with Mark, it was pure dominance and force. There's no question. It was pure dominance and force. Of course, beautiful touch and finesse and great passer, all of those things. So you have to account for that, and that's going to leave him open. However, when you look at, again, the numbers for Powell, 17, 9, 3.5, and 1.6, and the numbers for Mark, 14.6, 7.6, 3.4, 0.9, and 1.4. Gasoline in the fuel tank of any mobile that is driving your team through that game. Now, what about against each other? Before I start moving into, totals and minutes, what about against each other? Again, these gentlemen did play each other. Mark and Powell played each other a total of 29 games in the regular season, a total of 29 games, with Mark losing the battle 18-11 in favor of Powell. Now, again, all of the times that they faced off against one another were not all when Powell was with the Lakers. Powell has played for multiple teams, but they have faced off against each other a total of 29 times. Powell winning 18 of those 29. In those meetups, Powell averaged 12 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, 0.7 steals. I had something looking off there. 0.7 steals, 1.2 blocks, 1.6 turnovers, and 1.9 personal fouls. Marc Gasol averaged in their 29 games against one another 13 points, 9 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 1 block. Not 1 block. 4.3 assists, 1 steal, 1.4 blocks, 1.9 turnovers, and 3 total fouls in every matchup. Came to play. They did their thing. They pretty much have identical numbers against each other, with the exception of it seems as if Mark definitely had the enforcer job for his team. He planted a couple of more bodies on people. And sometimes that's just your job when you're the biggest guy on the floor. He might have been 6'11", but I promise you, if you watch that guy play, he looks 7'1", 7'2". Just massive. And again, to only be listed at 5 pounds heavier than Powell. Powell never looked like he was 250, less knowing Yes, he never looked like he was 250, less knowing that he was only 5 pounds lighter than his brother. Minutes. In Pau Gasol's entire career, he played 41,001 minutes. Marc Gasol played 27,726 minutes. To get 26 minutes, I apologize. I will start that again. To get to 27,726 minutes, Marc Gasol played a total of 839 NBA games. To get to 41,001 minutes, Pau Gasol played a total of 1,226 NBA games. To get a total of 20,894 points for Pau, 11,305 rebounds for Pau, 3,925 assists for Pau, 606 steals for Pau, 1,941 blocks for Pau. To go along with, let's not forget, 2,638 turnovers for Pau and 2,632 personal fouls committed by Pau Gasol. Marc Gasol committed in his career 2,436 fouls. He had 1,702 turnovers for Marc, 1,196 blocks for Marc, 766 steals for Marc Gasol, accompanied by 2,887 assists for Marc Gasol. Coming right behind and along with 6,389 rebounds for Marc Gasol, which in total also accompanies 12,252 points by Marc Gasol. Now, again, there is about a 5-year age gap and about a 6-year play gap between Marc and Pau Gasol. Let's also keep in mind, Marc Gasol was never intended to be a number one option, even though he eventually became a number two option at minimum for Memphis. I say at some points he was also their number one option. For a good portion of time, he was their number one option, in my opinion. He was definitely their most impactful player. But Pau Gasol, from induction, from being drafted as the third pick, he's always been the number one guy. He's always got a majority of the touches on any team he was on. Even later in his career, Pau Gasol would be in his, I think he was like 37 and still expected to have the majority of the touches when he played alongside LaMarcus Aldridge for a minute. They expected him to be a very big impact. When he played on the Milwaukee Bucks, not so much. But Pau Gasol was always expected to produce and have results come behind his name. Now, as a proof of that, Pau Gasol made a total of 6 All-Star teams in his career. Marc Gasol has made a total to date of 3 All-Star games in his entire career. Neither good nor bad for either one. 6 All-Star games is amazing. 3 All-Star games is also nothing to bat an eye at. Some guys do not make the All-Star games. Believe me, if you look at the numbers of the guys who do not make the All-Star games, you'd wonder why you only know the guys who made it. Oh, that's right, because they made it. So, as far as all NBA teams are concerned, this is interesting to me. I did not know this. Pau Gasol has a total of 4 All-NBA team selections, none of which being a first-team All-NBA selection. Marc Gasol, however, has 1 first-team All-NBA selection, but only has a total of 2 All-NBA selections in total. If you ask me if we had to say who wins that category, it would have to be Marc, because Pau never made a first All-NBA team. Marc has. Now, adding that, for Marc, he has a first All-NBA team. He's been Defensive Player of the Year once, and he has once made the All-Defensive team. Pau Gasol has been the Rookie of the Year along with his 4 All-NBA selections, and that is pretty much the extent of their awards. But let's talk about triple doubles for big men. Triple doubles by seniors. Triple doubles by centers. Tongue twister. Triple doubles by centers. Triple doubles by, oh, that's interesting. So triple doubles by centers. So let's go with Mark first. Marc Gasol has a total of 5 triple doubles in his career, while his older brother Pau has a total of 10 triple doubles in his career. Which, again, if you've seen either of these guys play, the way they play, they can pass, they can shoot. They're almost 3-level scorers. They can get to the rack. They can hit the mid range. They can hit the 3 ball. They're both really good free throw shooters, and they can pass. So on all levels, you have to be worried about these guys. And with them being 6'11" and 7 foot, 250, 255, they're getting rebounds. They're bodying you up. They're getting there, right? So you have to understand that triple doubles isn't just a thing for guards. Triple doubles is a thing that every player on that floor can accomplish. And the only reason I believe you see guards accomplishing it more is because it's highlighted more. If we were to pay attention to our big men who are active on the boards, who are active with the ball, who are very attentive as far as knowing the plays and seeing what their guys are supposed to be doing, this is not an emotional thing, I promise you. You will see the results of those type of big men versus the big men who only want to score or the big men who only want to defend. You'll see a significant difference when you get to the big men who also distribute. That matters. So going away from our regular season, you know what time it is. It's playoff time. The Gasoline brothers, when the crunch time hits, this is the time. This is when everybody, if you watch my episodes, and our future episodes, when it comes to sports, playoffs is what they say when the big boys come to play. Playoffs is when you get to show everything you have. Playoffs is the time where you say, so why are we watching this? Because they suck. But when players show up and when teams show up, you get really great results. The Gas brothers, the GASOL brothers, the Gasoline brothers, they are no exception to the big boy rule. They are no exception to when playoffs come. If they show up, they don't flounder. They don't flounder in regular season either. And this is not just an ode to say, oh, the GASOL brothers are the best. These are the only 2 brothers in NBA history to both have rings. You can't think they're playing when the playoffs come. And even if you thought they were playing when the playoffs come, let me show you how they explain to you that they weren't. Pau Gasol has been in a total of 12 NBA playoffs in total. Marc Gasol has been in a total of 8 NBA playoffs in total. For averages, Pau Gasol averaged in his playoff career 15 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 0.5 steals, and 1.7 blocks. Marc Gasol averaged in his playoff career 13.9 points, 7.7 rebounds, 3 assists, 0.8 steals, and 1.4 blocks. Marc Gasol was able to do that in his 8 playoff appearances. He played a total of 94 playoff games. In Pau Gasol's 12 playoff appearances, he played a total of 136 playoff games. These guys played seasons of playoffs. Just understand that this is not a game. This is when they come to play. And watch this. Just watch these percentages. Remember the percentages from earlier? Here, let me remind you. Regular season percentages: Pau Gasol, field goal 51, 3-point 37, free throw 75. Marc Gasol, regular season percentages: 48% field goal, 35% 3-point, and 78% free throw. Now let's get to these playoff percentages, which are going to be a little bit different, but not much. And mostly different in a good way. More efficiency. Better. So, Pau Gasol, for his playoff career, 51% from the field. 30% from the 3-point range. And 74% from the free throw line. Let's talk about Mark, because if you're not impressed with that, if you don't think a guy who shot 51 in the regular season and still shot 51 in the playoffs was doing his job, let's jump over to his little brother. Let's see what you have to say about that. Marc Gasol, percentage-wise in the playoffs, 44%. From the three-point line, 34%. From the free throw line, 81%. 81% from the free throw line for a center. I thought they said big men couldn't shoot. And this is a big man who did not shoot unless he absolutely was forced to. But he shot 81. He has shot to date 81% from the free throw line alone. Just alone. Let's not talk about his threes. Let's not talk about his his field goals. 81 from the free throw line. That's a big man. That is a player who came to do his job. Now, percentage-wise, great. But we all know what has to come. It's playoffs. I want to know what you did in total. Show me some totality. But before I get to what they did individually, let's get to what they've done versus one another in these fine playoff series that they've had. Now, in the playoffs, they've only played 6 games versus one another, which would be one series. I would assume this was probably a series where actually, I think this was when it was San Antonio versus Memphis. I did not look that up. I should have looked that up. I was thinking it could have been a Lakers versus Memphis, but no. I'm almost sure that this would be a San Antonio versus Memphis series. I can't remember. Well, maybe. It might have been Lakers 1-8 in 2009. You know, I apologize to all of my viewers out there and anyone who's here with me doing this research, simply because I could have looked that up and made this a much more interesting topic rather than having you go look it up for me. But I appreciate you. Versus each other, the Gasol brothers had some really interesting stat lines. So in the 6 games versus each other, Powell wins 4-2. But the stats say a little bit more than that 4-2 win. Powell averaged versus his brother in the playoffs 6.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1.2 assists with no steals, 0.3 blocks, 0.8 turnovers, and 1.7 personal fouls versus his brother in the playoffs for Pau Gasol. Marc Gasol in the playoffs averaged 19.3 points, 6.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 0.3 steals, 0.7 blocks, with 2.5 turnovers and 3.7 personal fouls. I don't know if I'm the only one, but again, Mark is clearly the enforcer when he is on the floor. He takes a good brunt of the fouls for his team, and I don't think he has any issue with doing it. It's part of his job, right? But total-wise, individually, now again, you could clearly see when they played each other, and that's why I believe it was a Memphis versus San Antonio with a low score total for Powell. He, as important as he was to the San Antonio rotation when he was playing with them, he wasn't as important to the scoring. He was more of the facilitator, the rebounder. He was the veteran who showed guys what they needed to do with the athleticism he no longer had, with the energy he no longer had. Now, let's discuss something. Totals. Now, in the playoffs, I'm going to go through these because we haven't quite gotten to the best either yet, right? We haven't talked about what best season totals, what best playoff totals. We're just talking about totals in general, all together. I will start with this. Marc Gasol has 0 triple-doubles in the playoffs, where Pau Gasol has 1 triple-double in the playoffs. Triple-double king. No, I'm joking. But points. Pau Gasol, as far as points are concerned in the playoffs, he scored 2,098 points in the playoffs. He had 1,246 rebounds, 438 assists, 71 steals, 233 blocks, with 250 turnovers, and he committed 356 personal fouls in the NBA playoffs. Marc Gasol, however, scored 1,305 points in the NBA playoffs, has 728 rebounds, 306 assists, 79 steals, 136 blocks, and 137 turnovers, while also committing 320 personal fouls. Now, what I like, and when I say I like, I really probably mean I love, is to look at these numbers and know that you had big men who weren't afraid to hear that tweet, hear their number called, and say, because sometimes you have to understand that everyone's not trying to hurt someone just because they commit a foul. But there are occasions where you're going to have to put a body on somebody. You're going to have to maybe swing the hip a little harder than a fan would like to see. You're not trying to hurt anybody, but there is a way that these games can become more physical than we see sometimes. And there is always more physicality than we are aware of as spectators viewing from a camera that's probably about 70 yards away. That might be an overstatement with the 70 yards, but in reality, we're watching through a lens. We miss a lot of the physicality. And these numbers just prove to me that even though that whistle is going to get tweeted sometimes, they never strayed away from the physicality. Now, as I said a moment ago, we have not, but we are about to now go into the best years for Pau and Marc Gasol in the regular season, and the best years in totals for certain things for Marc and Pau Gasol in the playoffs. Now, as I move into this, I simply want to say to anyone and to everyone who is watching and who enjoys these kind of numbers, just take this in. These are, to me, this is almost a beautiful thing. You don't often get to look back at some of the players you watched and say, "Dang, I didn't know he did that. That's pretty cool. That's impressive." Highs, and I usually do high scores. Marc Gasol's high score of his career was 42. Pau Gasol's high score of his career was 48. It might have been 46, but I believe it was 48. Not saying that that's not impressive, but when you look at the grand scheme of, 81s and 100s and 60-point games, both gentlemen only had about 1 or 2 40-point games in their entire career. Not saying that that's not impressive. Both had multiple 15-plus rebound games. That was impressive, but nothing worth noting because I didn't think it was as insane as I thought it would. I thought both of them would have had at least 2 20-plus rebounds, but that didn't happen. But let's get to it. In fact, Pau Gasol in 2007 had his career high of 20.8 points. In 2015, had his career high of 11.8 rebounds. In 2006, had his career high of 4.6 assists. In 2005, had his career high of 0.7 steals. In 2007, had his career high of 2.1 blocks in a single season for each of those categories. Marc Gasol in 2012 had his career high of 1.9 blocks. In 2019, had his career high of 1.1 steals. In 2017, had his career high of 4.6 assists. In 2010, had his career high of 9.3 rebounds. And in 2017, had his career high of 19.5 points. In total, for each of those categories, those are their highs for the regular season. Before I get over to playoffs, I want to say check out Tex Pride 85 Gaming over at Facebook. Good guy Josh plays a lot of good games, often playing Madden, streams, I want to say about 2 or 3 times a week. And if you're not a good gamer, if you're not a big gamer, his games are not only entertaining, I think you could pick up a couple of things. I think I learned a few things watching some of his games. And really nice guy. I just wanted to give him a shout out. So in our matchup here, we now have the best playoff statistics. Our best playoff statistics. In 2005, Pau Gasol. In 2005, Pau Gasol. In 2005, Pau Gasol averaged 21.3 points. In 2013, he averaged 11.5 rebounds. In 2013, he averaged 6.5 assists. 2004, he had averaged 1 steal. And in 2015, he averaged 2.1 blocks. All of these are playoff highs for each year. Best playoff year for each category. Marc Gasol in 2015 had 19.7 points. In 2011, had 11.2 rebounds. In 2015, had 4.5 assists. In 2014, had 1.7 steals. And in 2013, had 2.2 blocks per game. Those are his playoff highs for each year noted. And what I think, again, I will say is so amazing about the Gasoline brothers. The Gasol brothers, in my opinion, were not showboats. I just read you all of their numbers. They have careers that are more noteworthy than a lot of the guys we hear about regularly. They never, till this day, if we're being totally honest, I knew Pau Gasol retired only because he's an ex-Laker, only because he is an ex-Laker, and only because he is an ex-Laker. And that's really the only reason I knew Pau Gasol retired. Outside of that, I don't think it was a big thing for him to make a tour about it. And that's not saying that there's anything wrong with making a tour about it. What I'm saying is the humble that comes from a Marc and a Pau Gasol, and then you see their numbers and then you see their gameplay. These are guys that their gameplay, they could be as arrogant as they like, and there's nothing you could do about it because you couldn't prove them wrong with your gameplay versus theirs. They are amazing basketball players, and to be the only two brothers in all of NBA history, again, noting as 63 sibling pairs to come through the NBA, and they're the only two to win rings. I even thought at one point I had to look it up that Brent and Rick, maybe not Brent, but Brent and John Barry possibly. No, didn't happen. So you look at these numbers and then you think to yourself, wow, did they really get this far by just working out together as brothers? It's plausible because they loved what they did. And these numbers are proof. These numbers, every number I just read you for the last 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 2 hours, if you play it that many times, I appreciate you. What I have to say is, if you are not aware, and I will say this about all of my sports takes for sure, because they're a little easier to YouTube. If you have not seen some of these players play, if you have not seen some of these guys in competition, or the ladies that I've covered, if you have not seen some of these athletes in competition, and you don't want to take what I've said at face value, which I understand, sometimes I need the proof as well. I like to read quite a bit, which is why I'm doing these numbers, because I don't like to just run on emotion. I want to see what the facts are. Were you really a good player, or did people just speak highly upon your name? I look at Marc Gasol's career and I think to myself, for a guy who was the 48th pick, a lot of people let that slide. But I also think to myself, and I said this back when the trade happened for Marc and Pau. Any Laker fans know what happened right around that same time, Chris Paul. But I remember thinking to myself, why are we giving up this guy who seemingly is going to come into this league and be not only a dominant force, but he may change the way centers are viewed? And Marc Gasol came in this league and did exactly that. But we traded him for his older brother, the guy who I guess showed him what he needed to know to come in and change the NBA and how centers are viewed. So to Marc and Pau Gasol, I simply say that they were amazing players. If anyone can get that message to them, they were amazing players, and thank you for what they've shown us. For all spectators and fans out there who have never seen them, take the time to go and Google both of their careers. Even if you just Google highlights, you'll be impressed, believe me. So I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. I appreciate everyone who is going to be listening in on the audio playbacks. Take the time to visit us over at www.thinkering.space. Subscribe to our YouTube, view some of our merch shops, some of our merchandise on our merch shop, and by all means, I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. And please remember to take care of yourself, take care of your family, and all of those that you love. Have a great one, and see you next time.